We are now in the final stretch. This will probably be, unless something massive happens in the next 24-48 hours, my last pre-release news video around Wastelanders. Everything from here on out will actually be coverage of the DLC, tips on playing it or me playing it. Over the past 72 hours or so, we've gotten a ton of information around this. I've made several videos on it, but a few other details have come out or not come out from Bethesda that are interesting. So in this video, I'm going to do a Wastelanders news roundup, going over some of the other stories to come out over the past week or so. One of the first and big ones that I do want to talk about immediately is all of the Wastelanders achievements have actually gone up on Xbox. Achievements with Wastelanders are interesting because for the first time, PC players will have access to these via Steam. In total, there are 10 new achievements that are somewhat spoilery. They confirm other things that we've known in the past, provide a bit more context. So if you're trying to go in fully blind, I wouldn't watch this part of the video, but large in part, it's nothing huge. The first one is Wayward Child, which is complete the elusive crane. This is one I actually know because I started doing this quest. The intro segment of Wastelanders Around the Wayward is looking for this guy named Crane, which several other people are after, including Duchess. Although the second one probably provides the biggest spoiler of all with overdue reunions, Find the Overseer. And based on this image, seems to be complete confirmation that you do in fact meet the Overseer in human form. I mean, this really isn't shocking. The Overseer has been mentioned by Bethesda all throughout the promotional trailers or just pages for Wastelanders, and considering it is the human DLC, it makes sense that she'll come back as a human, which is pretty exciting. I'm sure when that moment happens in game, it'll be a big one, assuming you actually played the original story of Fallout 76 following in her footsteps. The next two achievements are pretty interesting. Go for Gold and a Golden Future. Each involve completing certain quests, but I think what we're seeing represented here are the two various endings, either with the Settlers or the Raiders. For the Go for Gold quest, we do see all of those same people we just saw recently from the Wastelanders trailer. The only person present in this background footage that isn't in this image is Meg, the leader of the Raiders. Conversely, a Golden Future, we have some new faces. Considering these both seem to involve breaking into Vault 79 and have the same gamer score reward, I'm going to assume that this is two different ways of breaking into Vault 79. You can either choose to side with the Raiders or the Settlers, and the break-in process is probably somewhat different. Pretty interesting from the Settler view, we of course see the Chinese stealth suit. Although not complete confirmation, I bet getting the Chinese stealth suit is a part of siding with the Settlers. We've heard how faction reputation allows you to get some of the better rewards from those vendors, and I bet this will be one of those better rewards from the Settlers. Wish Upon a Star is described as just completing Sofia's story. We've heard how Sofia is going to be this astronaut companion, or ally as they're known with Wastelanders, that crash landed in Appalachia and kind of missed the whole Great War, doesn't really know what's happening. Conversely, one of the allies Bethesda teased directly was Beckett, the other of the two named allies. He's described as a former raider, and we could see here what looks like cleaning up some of his former companions. Solid Foundation and Friends in Low Places are simple, just become allies with the base of the Settlers or the Raiders, although considering these are both 30 gamer score achievements makes them seem pretty significant. Obviously, this is very minor, but it seems to lend more credence to the idea that getting full reputation with a faction will take a decent amount of time. It will be a pretty substantial achievement. Then we do have Gold Rush as well as the new Fort Knox. Gold Rush for getting 300 gold bullions, the new Fort Knox for gaining 1500 gold bullions. These are interesting because I actually speculated about numbers like this. In the recent gameplay preview we saw from Bethesda, the developer had 1500 bullions in his inventory. I wouldn't be shocked if, very similar to how it works with legendary script, gold bullions will be a currency that you have a limit on how many you can earn in a given day, and then also a limit on how many you could have in your account in total. I bet the day limit is 300 and the account total limit is 1500, and these achievements again only seem to support that. And that 1500 gold bullion achievement is worth 40 gamer score, higher than everything else here. So I wouldn't be surprised if getting this new currency for those late game unlocks is a genuinely difficult thing. Getting a full 1500 legendary script, although not the hardest thing in the world for Fallout 76, definitely requires a decent amount of effort, and would require a week plus of actual effort in game to get to that number. Those are the achievements. I think they're interesting because taken together with some of the other speculative knowledge we had, I think it does reveal or just serve to confirm some more things, especially around the gold bullions, and Vault 79 being that taper off point where you have to really choose one faction or another to side with and break into the vault. Separate from that, something else pretty cool, you could actually now preload Wastelanders on Steam, assuming you actually buy it on Steam. Up until midnight tonight, you can link your Steam account to your Bethesda.net account, and with this, get a copy of Fallout 76 on Steam, but the preload for that version is not currently live. Bethesda reaffirmed earlier today that it would be coming, perhaps after that midnight timeframe does pass. Hopefully it happens tomorrow, because that is kind of getting to the final stage, especially for those with slower internet. Fallout 76 right now is a pretty thick download at over 70 gigabytes most of the time. But conversely, something else we found from the Steam pre-release is a few things available and a few things not. With Wastelanders, they're releasing also the Settler and Raider bundles. These being bundles of cosmetic items, kind of a pre-order-esque thing that you can get with this. In the past, these bundles were stated as being $20 each, or you could get both for $30. Although now we could also find that on Steam, you could get Fallout 76, which is typically $40 new, plus both bundles for $60 total. So you're kind of getting $30 off of Fallout 76 in addition to that bundled price. Although at least right now on Steam or Bethesda.net, you cannot buy the bundles individually. On Bethesda.net, you can't actually buy these bundles at all, but I'm sure this will all carry over in the next 48 hours or so. Kind of surprised it's not done already. You would think Bethesda wants people spending money and spending that money ASAP. Although something else I recently noticed that I found to be really interesting was actually around the reception to Wastelanders. Obviously, Fallout 76 isn't highly regarded by really anyone. There are a ton of people that enjoy the game, but even among many of those, the diehard fans, they recognize that there's a lot of room for improvement. When you get to the broader gaming community, there's typically a lot of negativity when it comes to Fallout 76. Much of that absolutely deserved. But something very interesting that happened with this most recent Wastelanders trailer was, well, it didn't get that many dislikes. So I don't know how significant or representative this is, but when you actually compare it to every other Wastelanders trailer we've gotten, as far as like to dislike ratios, this one performed significantly better than any of the past. And of course that is good because it is the most recent. I think over the next week or so, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with the Steam reviews of Fallout 76. I think immediately it'll be negative because people just are going to leave negative reviews now that they could finally leave reviews on the game on Steam. But what will be interesting is, let's say Wastelanders is received overwhelmingly positive. Could Fallout 76 on Steam actually have a mixed to slightly positive review if that's the case? I think that's what a lot of us are hoping for. We'll see how much Wastelanders delivers. But outside of that, something else that could pose a massive problem for Wastelanders is hacking. And I do have a few updates around this also. I'm sure most of you have heard about some of the Fallout 76 hacks, whether that be stealing inventories or other things like actually spawning in or creating items in-game. Well, those were released by the same person who has several other hacks that currently there are videos of that just haven't been released. As some of these were teased or posted about, there was an overflow of requests to not release them until after Wastelanders. Because many people have just been growing tired of Fallout 76 over the past few months, there hasn't been much going on, and as such, these hacks could cause a lot more damage right after Wastelanders rather than right before. It's now been several months since we've actually seen a hack get updated. And although there hasn't been any confirmation they'll all get released just after Wastelanders, the author behind several of these has actually mentioned getting bored of Fallout 76 and that he'll probably post an update for one of his major hacking tools just after the Steam release, aka the release of Wastelanders, but otherwise may stop updating them thereafter. So I would take this as almost a double-edged sword. On one hand, we might see several of these hacks get posted and be frustrating, but at the same time, it might be the end of hacking or any major hacking in 76 for a while. And perhaps even some of the other hacking tools that have just kind of existed and gone unpatched may be addressed. Likely with Wastelanders, we'll see some changes to the anti-cheat with the larger update and bug fixing wave, so maybe some of these won't even work on release and won't be made to work, but it's definitely something again that I would keep an eye out for. Although one final thing I wanted to talk about towards the end of this video, not actual news around 76, but just some intrigue. That is monetization and Fallout first. With Wastelanders, we know that Fallout 76 is likely going to have some form of major monetization in-game. We know they do have the Raider and the Settler bundles, and I'm sure that'll generate a good chunk of change. With those two bundles, it doesn't seem like you could use atoms on them. Technically, this isn't confirmed, but more so Bethesda has only listed these as actually having a dollar price on them, which is something that typically doesn't happen with Atomic Shop content, meaning it's unlikely this will come to the Atomic Shop. But you have to assume there's probably going to be some pretty cool stuff on the Atomic Shop this Tuesday. There's been a lot of things in the pipeline, things like the Communist bundle that look awesome. It also does make you wonder, is there going to be a communist presence with Wastelanders kind of tying in that atomic shop item to some in-game enemy? But even further, what kind of additions or expansions will we get to utility items, as Bethesda likes to call some of their pay-to-win content, or alternatively Fallout First? One of the big things with Fallout First that I think frustrated me and many others was the timing. Releasing a subscription service just after delaying your big DLC is not a good look. You're adding additional monetization while not really adding a ton of new value. Where Wastelanders will be the contrary, adding a ton of new free content to the game, but then also monetization methods will be interesting. That's how it should be done and how it should have been done before, but you have to assume Bethesda also knows that. So how far will they push that boundary? How many new things are we getting to the Atomic Shop, and how many of them will be utility items? How many of them might be new additions to Fallout First? The gold bullions are an interesting system because it's weird that they're adding a new currency now, and many people don't really see why this is getting added, with a lot of speculation that perhaps this could be offered for real-world dollars. There's nothing to indicate that. It's not like there's any data mines, leaks, or anything saying that is true, just looking at how it works, why it was added, and perhaps Bethesda's plans. But either way, when it comes to Wastelanders, in my opinion, I think there's a few things to look out for, and in particular around the evaluation of Wastelanders and Fallout 76 moving forward. Firstly, how good is that core story? How many quests are there? How evolved or changed is the world? Thus far, it sounds like that part is going to be awesome and really deliver. It seems like after the main story, you're going to have some grindy content, grinding for gold bullions, grinding to get your faction reputation up to gain access to those new items and the more powerful variants of those new items. How long is that process? How fun or not fun is it? How long will it take to get everything? And then even further, what kind of monetization or changes in that aspect of Fallout 76 do we see? Along with how many bugs are actually fixed? I think it's interesting because depending on the player, I think different things have to land. For more casual players, a fun main story and relatively minor bugginess is probably good enough. But for more hardcore players, if the grind is ridiculous, like a month to get all of the new weapons, that'll probably really piss them off, while it wouldn't piss casual players off nearly as much. And that same applies to the monetization. Maybe hardcore players will love new features they could pay for, where casuals will hate that certain things are paywalled. Regardless, it's going to be a very interesting week for this channel and Bethesda. As always, again, I thank you for watching. Hopefully you found this video informative. But with that, I hope to see you all next time. Later.